Let's talk about the topic that has been going on since the beginning of the pandemic, which is remote and hybrid work versus going back into office. A lot of these conversations are solely around employees, but we don't really talk about how it's impacting leaders. So today we'll discuss the pros and cons, the benefits of remote and hybrid work, and what leaders need to do differently if they are working from home. Hi, my name is Arzu Azim, and welcome to my YouTube channel where I help leaders uncover the roadblocks that are holding them back. I uncover the psychology, the emotions, and the impact that they're having within themselves so that they can show up as the best leader that they can be for their teams. Now, I'm not here to tell you what decision is better. I'm just here to give you the facts and tell you what you can do differently if you are working from home. And I know the challenges, they are important and they have been impacting a lot of people. A lot of my clients who are leaders have brought up these topics many times, so I thought I would share it with you guys. For many years, organizations assumed that leaders and managers need to be in that location in order for their employees and their teams to be thriving. But by definition, this limits the pool of applications. Many of my leaders have told me that if they had to move to that location where their corporate headquarters are, they probably wouldn't have taken the job. This is where the pandemic hugely challenged that assumption. Leaders were now able to work from their homes and take care of their families and not have to disrupt the dynamic that they had in order to take on a job. They're able to do both. Now, because of the work-life balance, leaders felt like their productivity had increased, their patience, their ability to show up in problem solving had significantly improved because they felt like they were also showing up for the other areas that were important to them. Now let's get into the pushback of how working from home as a leader can really impact not only their job, but also their teams. For one, managing employees from a distance without that physical presence requires leadership skills that are very difficult. It does not come naturally and is also not often talked about in business school. For example, they have to find different ways to build relationships with their teams and their employees, managing social isolation and mental health, and making sure the processes are all communicated through each group. And keep in mind, none of that is easy, which explains why 70% of managers stated that working from home as a leader impacted their ability to show up, especially if it was a new team that they were working with. If you had already established your relationship with those teams and that company before the pandemic, that was very different versus leaders who are now jumping into new companies, new roles, and new teams where building that from scratch was impactful. Remote-based leaders can also become very invisible to their employees and to their stakeholders, which goes back to the out of sight, out of mind syndrome. So no matter how good they are at their jobs, they might not even be invited into the conversation of how to support an employee or how to get a project done on time and how to get into that conversation, because when it is out of sight, out of mind, a lot of individuals forget to turn to their leaders. And think about it this way. If you were hired on as an employee and you've never met your leader before, and you're doing remote work, you don't really have that connection with them, it can be easy to just have those blinders on where you don't really turn to them to ask for questions, or if things come up, some individuals might just kind of put their head down and do things on their own, which also goes back to a lot of individuals feeling like they don't connect to the company, the culture, their teams, other individuals within the company, and they don't really have that foundation. So when that's your first time coming into the company, you might have a disconnect, especially if you are doing a majority of your tasks outside of the office on your own. So let's talk about what leaders can do differently to show up for themselves and their teams just a little bit better. Coming at number one, being more conscious of your time and planning ahead. This is anything from using the block schedule where you are blocking out certain times and hours for different tasks that you have to get done, all the way down to planning out the meetings that you're going to have with different teams, different employees. Having these conversations with your employees on a continuous basis is very valuable because you get to grow your relationship with them. You get to learn a little bit about them, what's going on in their lives, what are some of their strengths, what are they working on, what do they need improvement on, and you get to just show up for them so that there isn't this barrier between you and them where they don't really know that you're there, but they're like, oh, I get to speak to so-and-so every 3 weeks. And we go over what's coming up for me, what would be valuable for me moving forward, and they actually support me. So in a sense, you want to make that consistent. Some of my clients who have implemented this and the one-on-ones that they have with their employees have really significantly seen an improvement on the relationships that they have with them. So they have a Google Docs that they write their name in, they write down some facts that they remember about that person, some topics that they, had discussed last time, what they promised as a leader on how they were going to show up for them. And they checked in with that person every time they met with them. And they had that log. So it made it easier where they didn't have to just go based off of, well, how did that conversation go? Keep in mind, you don't want to go past 3 weeks because you want this to be something that they remember and continuously have in their calendars. As a leader, you also want to remember that it is your job to show up for your teams when they're going to have uncomfortable emotions that come up for them. And sometimes leaders want to just pass over the emotional aspect of things. But the reality is if you're trying to build a relationship with this person and you want them to want to work with you, then you're going to want to care about all of them, not just the tasks that they need to get done. A manager is someone who thinks about tasks. What do we need to get done? Let's just focus on that. A leader focuses on the person, the entirety of that person, and caring about them. I want you to think about a time in your past where somebody really saw you for who you were, your strengths as a person, and them seeing you made you feel like you wanted to go even a step further. Whether that was in a sport or in class or a parent or guardian, someone who said, I see what you're doing and I believe in you. That's kind of what needs to happen at you as a leader. You want to be able to see your employees and see the strengths that they have, not just get these things done. The most important thing that you need to make sure you add in your one-on-ones is asking what is valuable to you. Because when you can find out their why are they doing this? Why are they working here? Why do they care about what they care about? You can now speak their language on what's important to them versus what's important to the company. Let's say their why is, I want to become a manager one day, and I need to work really hard right now in my job so that I can get, move up the ranks. By knowing their why, you can help them feel more motivated on the tasks that they need to get done to get them closer to what's important to them. Now imagine 3 months in, you know their why. I want to become a manager or a leader. And you're noticing that they're just not as motivated or something's holding them back from being the best that they can be. When you go into that conversation, you're not going into it being like, you need to do this. The company needs you to do this. You're going into it being like, what do you think you need to do to get you closer to becoming that manager or that leader that you said you wanted to do? That's your goal. What do you think you need to do differently right now to get there? Anytime somebody ties it back to what's valuable to us, we are 10 times more motivated to get it done. Let's say they don't know their why and they're not sure what's valuable for them moving forward or what their goals are. That's something that you can do on your one-on-ones to help them. Not telling them what they need to do, but asking them the right questions of, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What is your ideal life? If you could have it exactly the way that you wanted to, what would that look like? If you could get the role or the pay that just makes you feel comfortable and happy and fulfilled, what would that look like? And you can check in on those questions in your check-ins over time to get them thinking about it. Because when they're able to see what's important to them, they're going to now see, how does that tie into what I need to do differently for me? Not because my manager or my boss or the company has these crazy expectations on me, but because now I have this idea of where I want to go. And my manager or my leader is helping me think about that. As we're coming to a conclusion for this episode, I want to thank you for staying through the entire thing. I know it's not easy doing remote work, not nearly as easy as being a leader doing remote work, but I know that because you're here, that means that you care about what you're doing, what you're building at your company, and it's valuable to you. So if we could just recap, remember to block out your schedule to get tasks done that you need to block out time where you're meeting with your teams and individuals on one-on-one consistently. And in your one-on-ones, make sure to ask the right coaching questions to see what's valuable to them. Ask what they need, how you can support them, check in with them. And lastly, as a little journal assignment for you, I want you to think about someone in your past, whether that was a leader, a coach, a parent who saw something within you, and what was amazing or different about them. How did they show up for you? How did they treat you? And I want you to take in some of the qualities that you liked, and I want you to use that in your own leadership.